Hello, Dr. Catherine.
Hello. I'm trying to open something up. Okay. Getting my act together.
Is
All
my
right.
sound okay? Because I
Hi.
can mic. Hi. So, today we're having a pretty informal. Let me open my chat actually. We're having a conversation about conflict resolution in neurodivergent connections because this space, this Zoom particularly, but also soft in general, the whole community, is a new concept. And I think for a lot of us, we haven't really had successful communities, at least ones where we can be unmasked. So this is like I would love to ask you just some questions about advice that you would give for neurodivergent people who are looking to open up. So I know a lot of people have chosen isolation because this part's really scary. So
Goodness.
yeah,
hmm
so that's
I mean, first of all, same, because I'm on this journey too.
mhm.
And I think a lot of us experience, I think it may be underestimated how much. Um, sorry, my other thing just decided to open here. Okay. Um, how much we all kind of end up traumatized, possibly for other reasons, but also just partly being neurodivergent can be traumatizing. And so it's very, very natural for to have like a response where we just would be like, okay, never mind. I remember that time I was bullied in first grade and I never want it to happen again. So we may have like an internalized part that would shy away. And then, our whole culture is a little too hyper individualistic. So some of that comes from neurotypical culture. And don't get me started on capitalism and colonialism and all the things. So we don't get a lot of skill in conflict resolution and in just being a part of a community here. And so um, that's true for neurotypical people too, I would think. But especially since that's what we're trying to build here, it it seemed like it came up that it would be a really good idea to work on some skills, you know?
Absolutely.
So I think the first thing that is important to note is that a community doesn't mean everyone agrees on everything.
Yeah,
And yeah.
that's such a good point. It's funny because that's one of the things I've really been needing to learn, or my one of my greatest lessons of the year, because I'm a person who very quickly feels like I guess unsafe if there are times where, and I don't even intend to, I don't, I think that's the unconscious thing happening. But if I feel like I'm not seeing eye to eye with someone too often, then I start to feel unsafe and I pull away. So I'm really learning to not do that. So yeah, I like that that's your first skill, your first, my brain's a little fried today as well. So maybe let me shake it out.
Okay, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, me too on that. And I do a lot of my therapy practice is a lot of parts work, and I think the reason I chose that is because it resonates for me so much, and a lot of other things didn't. So these automatic responses that are happening, it's like a part of me steps in and takes the wheel, and it's saying, "Okay, no thanks, take you, bye bye." Before I've actually consciously had a chance to participate and choose. And, even though that was a wonderful survival strategy for me growing up, it was kind of nice to be in my own world. But like, it's not serving me anymore in adulthood because I'm lonely, right? We get lonely and we need community. We need now more than ever. It's really imperative.
I agree.
So some of it is about facing and understanding that it's okay. It can be okay. There are okay ways to navigate difficult conversations.
Hmm,
And
absolutely.
then sort of, yeah.
So something that I find that comes up in this space in particular is that we all have our varying special interests, and sometimes it can be like I noticed that a person will struggle to focus on someone else's conversation if they're involved in a group conversation because it doesn't match their special interest. Do you have advice for how to navigate this? Like, how do you
It's a
open
tough one.
yourself up to someone's special interest if it's not really your special interest?
Right. That's a challenge. I mean, I think part of it is listening. Well, first of all, you have to be available for that
Hmm.
day and in that moment. So you would be accommodating yourself. I don't know if people here all talk about spoons theory, but like you got to have the spoons. You have to have the bandwidth available to listen, to understand. And so when you have that availability, then you can be really curious and, really compassionate and like looking into somebody's experience, being of open to understanding their experience can help you be like, on a journey with them. Like, okay, so I may not be into what specifically they're talking about, but I might be like, okay, as I'm listening, I can relate because I'm that way with this other thing. And it also is, I don't know about you, but there's times when, as long as there's a back and forth and people are good at mirroring each other and being present together, it can be fun to, ask questions or, start to think of things in a new way, or you get like cool recommendations for like, oh, I never really watched that, Steven Universe, for example, before, but now I'm gonna, because what a fascinating approach, you know, somebody who loves that show, why they love it.
Yeah,
But you
absolutely.
have to be available because sometimes you're not. It's like I'm just too tired right now, and I have to own that and accommodate myself if right now might not be the time to explore someone else's brand new, a special interest that's totally new to me.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's nice. So it's like a balance of, well, first checking in with yourself and then seeing if you have the spoons and if you're open to it, then trying to find almost like a through line. So asking questions about their special interests, but maybe to see if there's any way that it could relate to something that you are interested in so that in a way you can become interested in it. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I think so. That would be possibly the idea would be listen to understand, meaning, even if you don't find that through line, as long as you're available to, if you're there to support somebody in their special interests, you could just reflect back what they're saying. It's like, oh, so this, you know, this game that you love is really interesting for you, and it sounds like it's related to, you could sometimes reflect back themes or, you know,
Yeah.
just getting to another person. Because, also for neurodivergence, sometimes that's how we communicate. I might not have a whole full vocabulary about myself, but I can probably talk about it in terms of movie quotes or memes or songs. And sometimes that it's a way to be curious.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So we have a question in the chat. It's
Yay.
Peanut asks, how do you use your special interest to relate to someone else's special interest without it feeling like you're changing the conversation to your interest and completely taking over the conversation?
That's a big challenge sometimes, right? Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I know that we have our own kind of neurodivergent love languages, right? So info dumping is one of them. We love info dumping, and ideally we mean that like we're really excited about somebody hearing about us. I mean, some people maybe that's not true for, but like a lot of times when I'm in conversations and I start info dumping, I'm like, I gotta check and make sure that I'm not like being taken the wrong way. And I also want to make sure I'm holding space for somebody else so that it can be a back and forth conversation. Or if I'm in a situation where somebody's their turn to info dump, then I can just choose to take the listening role. And again, that's going to depend on like having the spoons to be able to do that day. And ideally to communicate with each other, to like, okay, it's going to be your turn today. I'm going to give you the floor and it's going to be all you. And then maybe the next time, ideally, we would take turns or, set a timer, or people can be really creative about how to make that work. Does that sound reasonable to you, Peanut? Cute. Okay, good.
Yeah. That's something I try to practice too, because if I'm just blatantly honest, there are times, not here, because I love everything we talk about here, but there are times in just my daily life where someone's engaging in a conversation that I just have zero interest in. It just feels crispy dry. And so I just try to remind myself to just, ask questions, and sometimes I ask questions until it suddenly becomes interesting.
See, there you go. You're giving it a chance, right?
Yeah.
Although it's really hard. I mean, my goodness, there's times when it's like, you know, sometimes people have differences with speech or like encoding or, communication, and it can get difficult.
Yeah.
So we need to also accommodate ourselves and don't be like totally self-abandoning, going, because first of all, that's not even genuine and people can tell,
Yeah.
you know, or we get resentful or we're like, oh God, that's not nice either. But then the other thing would be to like, make sure that we're accommodating them. Do we have enough spoons to accommodate them too? And sometimes it can be a different thing from we're taking turn info dumping. It might be more like this person needs support and I am providing community support by being just as curious as I can because I have time. And then, yeah, that's when you'll light on something. Almost always, you'll light on something that could be like, a new tangent that both you could participate in. And that's why I love neurodivergent conversations. We go in big loops and circles, and somehow we always manage to get back to it. And
Mhm.
um, yeah.
Absolutely. Can you see the chat or would you like me to read it? Because I don't mind.
Yeah, do you mind reading it?
Sure. Okay, so Ether says, I feel like I can be more engaged if I'm asked if I'm available to listen first. Otherwise, if someone randomly starts telling me about something, I feel thrown off.
So real. That's really important, right? That would be part of good, healthy communication. And so maybe, I guess part of it would be modeling that for people like, hey, are you available for a conversation right now? Are you available to just listen? Maybe there's a way we could set up even like when somebody's asking if we're available, we could say, do you need me to just listen? Would you like my opinion? Or what would you like? And then maybe that would give somebody a little menu of, okay, yeah, I just need this to hit the air. And then if we're available for it, we can say yes to that. Or if we're not, we'll say, okay, for that kind of conversation, I have to wait until another time when I have the spoons. Would that be okay?
I like it. Oh no, I understand entirely. Yeah. Although to be fair, like it can be true here too. There's so many flavors of neurodivergence here. So it can be
Mm-hmm.
true here too, for sure. Oh my gosh, that brings me to something else that I think I'm bringing up this space so much because personally, I've just never been in a space with this many other neurodivergent people who are like introspective, open, wanting to engage. And it's
Mm-hmm.
teaching me so much about like myself and community. What was the other question I had? Give me just a moment. It'll come to me.
Yeah. And I just wrote that down. I think that's gonna be a really important. Maybe I can come up with like a little script or skill around that. Like, what kind of conversation are you needing from me right now? So I just wrote that down.
That's good. That's
We
good.
can come up with that.
Oh, so yes, here's my question. I'm noticing, so we have been live for a little over a month now, and there was one sort of like disagreement that happened, and that's what led us to having this conversation today. And in that disagreement, I noticed I'm going to do my best to protect their anonymity, but I noticed that there was like a difference in communication style where one person is a little bit more um, gentle, soft, like very, very concise in the words they use, and the other is that way, but more playful, like can be a little bit more playful and can sometimes just make little jokes, kind of like little jabs as jokes. Um,
Mhm.
how do you
Mhm.
overcome these sorts of communication differences in a way to because it can be very triggering when you're in this space and you're, taking your time to unmask and you want to feel safe, but something like that might mirror the outside world and make you go back into your shell. How can you identify that it's safer here? What can you do to get through a conflict like that?
Oh my goodness. It's not me, is it? I do
Thanks
be
for that
having jokes.
question. I'm writing that down. That's my next question. But no, it's not you.
Yeah, you know, it is a huge whole world of a skill set to like manage how we're coming across and then also how we're taking things and then find that balance between how we're picking up. Are we picking up what that person is putting down or are we misinterpreting? And a lot of that involves that introspective work that we need to do. But I will say that sometimes, especially if we're getting closer with somebody, we can use those potential miscommunications as a an opportunity, because any relationship is going to bring up sort of, you could call it our triggers, or our our things, where opportunities where we might need to speak up, and in the past we never have. And
Mm.
so ideally that might be, part of, since this came up, it seems like this would be a good skill for all of us to have good, clear communication and conflict resolution skills.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, there's this one thing that I learned in the first time I came across it, was I was in a couple therapy session, and um, I was a client with my partner, and it was the type of therapist was called Imago. And so they did this exercise with us where there was four different questions, basically four steps. And it was really, really difficult to do, especially just verbally in the moment, right? Because um sometimes it takes me a whole lot of words to find out what I even think or mean, right? But so following these four steps just became like a really good, I call it the formula now, because I use it with my clients a lot and I share it a lot. In fact, I'm going to put a PDF of this in the chat right now so you guys can all have it. The copy, and I'm gonna see if I can paste it.
It lives in the app too.
Oh, yay, good. Okay. Well, I'll see if I can paste it here. So basically the idea is, when there's a conflict, and let's say somebody's tone when they made a little jokey joke might have not felt great, and it wouldn't be fair to just like it wouldn't be fair to us to be like, ooh, I no longer like that person, I'll never speak to them again, if we didn't check the facts and find out what they really meant. But it also wouldn't be fair to us if we were like, it's fine. It's fine. You didn't hurt my feelings, right? Because then a whole bunch of stuff is going to build up. And the next thing you know, those feelings will come out kind of sideways. And it's hard. It's really hard to not do that. So, yeah, this formula I can launch right in if you guys would be interested in going over it. I'm going to open up my little file. So it's on this little PDF. This is like a worksheet page or journaling idea with the same four questions that different therapists use. So the two therapies that I know for sure use this would be the Imago couple therapy and then the Gottmans. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Gottmans, but they're definitely very vocal about like conflict in a relationship is an opportunity for building intimacy, or for making more safe connections happen, right? And if we avoid conflict, that's going to make the less intimacy, and eventually there's either going to be the conflict will grow or the relationship will fall apart. So for example, if we we're going to work through something like this, we would say, no, step one is, when blank happened, I felt blank. Would you be willing, Brittany, to like kind of model that in this scenario? So it's like, when
Yeah. So when you make these little jokes, or when you made that joke,
that day, yeah, yeah,
when blank happened, I felt blank.
yeah.
Okay, so when you made the joke that day, I felt confused and hurt.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so if we were in a couple situation, then the therapist would have the person you're talking to. So I'll role play the person that you're talking to, and I'll say, what I heard you say was, when I made that joke, you felt confused and hurt. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. And all right. So ideally that part is, we can do that if the other person's available to sort of listen to understand and then reflect back what we heard. If not, we can do this on our own. That's why I made it into a journal thing, because sometimes it's like figuring it all out on our own. So step two, when this happened, the story that started playing in my head about it was,
When it happened, the story that started playing in my head about it was that you don't respect me very much.
oh my goodness. Okay, so what I heard you say is, the story that started playing in your head around it is that I don't respect you very much.
Yes.
Did I get that right?
Yes.
Oh. And see, as I'm reflecting that back, I'm managing my feelings because I'm like, who didn't respect you? Was it me? I wish it wasn't me. I didn't mean to. But I'm going to have all my feelings, except that what I'm going to do is I'm going to set them aside. And this is Brittney-Elizabeth time. I'm going to reflect hers. And then later on, when the time is right, we might switch roles and Brittney can reflect back what happens for me sometimes. Okay, step 3 is really important in this one. So I'm feeling feelings, lots of empathy, and I'm curious, what did it remind you of? Step
Hmm.
3.
It reminded me of being in grade school and being teased.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what I heard you say is it reminded you of being in grade school and being teased.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And that's terrible, right? Like, oh my goodness, I thought I was just being funny and now I'm ending up somebody made somebody hurt and confused, and it's because of a memory that they have that I have nothing to do with that. So that's helping me understand about her experience. Okay, so then let's do step 4. What I would like instead is
Um, so what I would like instead is just that you speak to me with gentleness. I don't really like little jokes very much.
okay.
It made it make
Okay.
sense.
Okay. All right, so if I'm hearing you right, what I heard you say is what you would like instead is if I can communicate with more gentleness and be very mindful not to make jokes, especially at your expense.
Yes,
Is
yeah,
it, I get that right? Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, good. And see why I like this is because I have my marching orders and I know what I can do to make this feel better for you. And not only that, but I understand what's happening for you. And I think I'm just like that and I'm going to make my jokes. Ha. Then I can remember that, oh, somebody else is experiencing this in a way that is not comfortable. And I care about this person. Therefore, I'm going to remember and maybe check in a little bit. So, um, oops, I did the joke again. Was that okay? Can I have another chance? Or, it opens up a lot of communication for what we would hopefully be able to build on. Since I care about you and I know exactly what you would like instead, then I should be able to be really clear on it. And then that's very kind to me because I'll know what it is that bugs you. I won't be wondering or guessing, and you don't expect me to read your mind. And honestly, that's probably pretty easy now that I understand like why it's so important. It would be really easy for me to be like, oh, there's one of those jokes you're talking about. Let me see if I can um, you know, rephrase or at least, you know, in myself, figure out what it is that's happening in me that um, maybe sometimes my jokes really are carrying like a tone or something that I didn't intend. And I need to learn to be aware of myself.
Mhm.
So, so, okay. Thank you so much for role playing it with me. Guys, if you
Absolutely.
want to go onto the back of this sheet, it's like breakdown of why each step is what it is and why it's like that. And I think the point of it is that it would be giving an opportunity to feel understood. And even when we have this, even when we get really clear on how we feel, sometimes people wouldn't be able to reflect it back to us. And then what we're going to need to do is figure out what to do then.
Yeah, there's some
Mm-hmm.
tools in the app that could help with that. My go-to for these types of situations would be face your emotions, which is number one in the sanctuary, because maybe you
Mm-hmm.
just have some unresolved feelings around what's happening, and this could be a good way to drop into your body and face them and let them go. And then there's also another practice called Take Your Power Back, which can be helpful in these situations. I don't remember the number offhand, but it's in the sanctuary as well. I want to say number 14, but I could be wrong. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and Katori has a question in the chat, but I also have one more question regarding the formula.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so you had mentioned that a person who's maybe making these little jokes might also want to check in with themselves to see what's going on there
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
maybe just consider their tone. And so that is one of my questions is what happens when you do the formula with someone, but when you tell them your "it reminds me of" story, they decide that this is your personal problem and not theirs, and they, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
because maybe there is some, like, maybe there is a tone adjustment that could happen or some self-awareness that could happen, but instead they're looking at it like, well, you're just being triggered by something else and it has nothing to do with me, and they don't feel the need to repair or reflect. What happened?
Right. That's where it gets like, well, first of all, one thing about these um steps, and uh, ideally that's part of what the task would be in a couples therapy would be like, can you even get the skill, can both partners get the skill of mirroring and hearing, or do their defenses take off like a wild racehorse and they're offended? Right.
Yeah.
And so everyone needs to work on these skills. I feel like everyone does. And if you don't already have them, it's okay to not be great at it. But it's also like, like you said, it's such a great idea. I mean, I think that facing your feelings, learning on being curious about your own feelings can give space for having curiosity about someone else's. And sometimes people aren't there and they may never be, and that's when we have to start really taking better care of, taking good care of ourselves. Like, is this partnership or friendship or relationship even aligned for me?
Mhm.
Because if it feels like every single conversation I have triggers somebody else, triggers that person to invalidate me and not hear me, and I'm trying to make myself as clear as possible and they are not listening to understand, either they don't have the skill or they do not want to, or
Yeah.
they're doing a thing that is not healthy for us, and that's when we might be like, okay, mental note, I'm going to change the nature of this relationship, or walk away if needed. That's can be hard, but this is partly why journaling it is so nice, because instead of having instead of having like that conversation over and over again for years in the shower, like the way I sometimes will,
Same.
capturing it on paper would be really good. And so maybe doing an activity like both of them, like having the feelings, and then realizing, okay, what if I were to write this in the conflict resolution? If I'm going to imagine an imaginary conversation, what would my side of it be? So at least somebody is understanding me, even if that only person doing that for me is me.
Yeah, that's nice. And this is a good opportunity to hug yourself too. Sometimes you gotta hug yourself.
Yeah. Oh, it's so important. And, I think we shouldn't like skip over ourselves to forgive others, but it's hurt people. So sometimes the people that are like that and so defensive, I do have empathy. We have to manage the empathy, but it's like, okay, that person is too hurt and feels so unseen that they're not able to see me. And then I need to figure out what I'm going to do about it besides abandon myself.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Thank
Mhm.
you. Okay, so now
Yeah.
I got a couple of questions. Katora, I see you. Katora asks, how can I navigate RSD during conflict? Is it best to step away to regulate and then communicate? And there's a next, I'm going to read the next one too from Katora. RSD can be very overwhelming for me and cause me to shut down, which makes it harder to process what the other person is trying to tell me.
Big time. Ooh, yes. Because I think that RSD, which is, I think it's rejection sensitive dysphoria. So the word dysphoria would be you feel ick basically in your body, right? So there's gender dysphoria when you feel like not good about the gender that you've been assigned. And then so rejection sensitive dysphoria, it's we our nervous system is more sensitive than would be typical, and sometimes it can be associated with that. It's like, I've been bullied or rejected so many times that I'm I feel really easily abandoned or rejected, and so that would be probably might be why somebody couldn't even listen to, what do you mean? I'm making jokes. I don't mean to hurt you, so therefore I didn't hurt you, right? Because the rejection sensitivity might be bigger than my ability and my capacity to show up for someone else. And so basically, what I think we need to do when we're working on that is to, again, turn inward, and like, hopefully we'll be able to work through a lot of, you know, how to notice ourselves better, how to take better care of ourselves. So it's like, whoa, this is getting to be like I can't tolerate it at all. So maybe I will need to have this conversation in writing, or maybe I need to go journal about it first, or maybe I need to wait until there is a good time to talk about it. Or ideally it's about giving ourselves new experiences where the part of us that is deathly afraid of being rejected could get a new story going where um so the part of me that is so afraid of being rejected might be like, nope, not doing that ever. And then how is that part going to ever learn? It's sort of stuck in a young place. But if I can observe that part and show up in my mind's eye as my grown up self, and it's almost like reparenting that part. And I could say, tell the part, it makes sense that you feel that way because there have been a lot of experiences where, first of all, you are more sensitive than maybe other people around you were, and then maybe you got made fun of. And so, of course, this part would want to protect me by running and hiding. But what I would want to do while invalidating that part internally for myself, I also want to say, and now you have a protector. Back then, mom or dad didn't do the thing they probably should have done, which would have been helping you have experiences of safety and attunement and caring. So I'm the mommy now. I know it sounds so funny, but like
That's true.
we have a grown up part to ourselves, and when we can begin to be co-conscious with our younger parts that are hurting and the strategies they have, then we can validate those for ourselves and then also invite that young part along.
Yeah, no, this is a great time to mention the sanctuary and the soft app because, again, the sanctuary is like a lot of tools that you can use for regulation, and they're numbered to make them easy to find. There's also a glossary, so if you don't know which tool to use, just refer to the glossary and go off of how you feel. I feel sad, I feel anxious, I feel happy, and it'll tell you which ones. But
So
based on what,
cool.
yeah. So number 5 in the sanctuary is called Be the Parent You Needed, and that's exactly what it's for. You can, it's like a gentle meditation that invites you to sit with your inner child at various developmental ages. So there's one for your infancy, there's one for your teen years, and just tell them the things that they need to hear, reparent them.
Mhm. Well,
Mhm.
it's really good to if you can embrace that idea, and a lot of it feels like daydreaming or even like sleep dreaming. It's like to be able to see yourself, notice the part, notice yourself noticing the part, getting a co-awareness going, and then ask them, what are you needing? What's the fear? What are you needing for me to feel better? And once that line of communication gets opened up, you would be surprised at some of the answers and how neat and oh, that's so easy. And then it's like a little bit of like, oh my God, part of me was waiting to be accommodated, and now I have one tool that I can accommodate myself with. So it's like almost like having that conflict resolution conversation with our own part. So what the part would like instead is, right? So it's like when you ignored me, I felt like I needed to go away forever. And then the story that started playing in my head around it is I have no value and people will always reject me. And what it reminded me of was the one time when I went to the neighbor and I wanted to talk to the lady and she dismissed me. And then when I turned around, her daughter was in the house and they laughed at me. That's a real one. And so, what I would like instead is if I could find ways to communicate with people that would be safer. And I'm looking to that, that's what my part would like chances for a repair, and it's not going to always be available. So I can't keep going to mean people and expecting them to treat me well. But if I treat myself really well, then I can start to know what it feels like when somebody is safer and give them a chance and get more clear about what I'm wanting. And then it gives them a chance to show up. It's all a process, and there's going to be times when it feels like it doesn't work. And then we'll just say, well, to the part that still feels rejected, we remind them we're just learning now, and I'm here now. We're moving forward, and you know, it turns out that we can have nice things.
Yes, absolutely. Um, Okay, so we have two more questions, and then I have one last question for you. I don't want to keep you here all night.
All right.
Um, so Peanut asks, how do you handle these situations when both people in the conversation have autism and RSD, but one is on a healing journey and the other has no desire to heal or change?
Hmm. Okay. See, this is the thing.
Mm.
Even though we might all be neurodivergent, even though we might be the same type of neurodivergent, we have different strategies psychologically for how we handle that, right? So there might be a situation where somebody would handle um, their inability to be sensitive, and they might handle it like, I'm just going to say it, narcissistically, where they're like, you're wrong and I'm right and I'm rigid about it and that's that. So even autistic people can be bullies and, like not listening and not caring. And that's an issue of capacity. And ideally, we can help each other grow in capacity, but that person has to be able to. So in a situation where that other person that you really want to get on board with like some nice active listening, some nice like listen to understand, if they can't do it, then we have to change our strategy. And sometimes it's like, okay, well, um, you know, I got to decide whether I want this relationship to be as close as it is. And or I mean, we are in community together, so does every single person in the community have to have the capacity that I want them to have? Or can we learn to tolerate each other?
Ooh,
So there's this balance between tolerating somebody and not like letting them walk all over you. Because if we're doing all the labor of trying to be understood and listening and to understand, and then somebody else cannot reciprocate, we need to gather our spoons and keep them to ourselves.
absolutely. Okay, this one another question is from Kiana. Thank you. Also, that was a fantastic answer. Are you good with that, Peanut? Thumbs up if you are. Um,
Peanut's a fox. So
yeah.
cute.
Oh, there's a thumb. Excellent. So Kiana would like to know, how do we navigate conflicts where intersectionality is at play, specifically when disability and culture intersect, and a person uses white immunity to shield themselves from accountability? This dynamic can trigger a trauma response, leading Black, Brown, Indigenous, or melanated individuals to assert themselves only to then be perceived as the problem. How, as individuals and as community members, do we best respond?
Oof. So
Mhm.
real. And um, yeah, I think part of that would be when you notice that somebody doesn't have capacity, you can create a little bit more distance and just be like, okay, I'm not going to be heard here. And I can imagine how frustrating that is when it seems like there's a whole gang of them acting that way, like rude and not being available. And then as we get better at learning what we want, understanding what we would like instead, if we practice understanding that and working through it for ourselves, sometimes we can just say, hey, when you said X, it made me angry. What I would like instead is if you could, and then state something, for example, um, oh boy, that would be a really challenging one. It might be something to sit up and like think of what kind of script you could use to respond to that, where it puts the onus on them and because we don't want to have to do a whole bunch of additional labor for a person that is kind of willfully not trying to understand. So, for example, when you said such and such a statement, it reminded me of a lot of past traumas, and I would like it said if you could use different language, and here's an example, something like that. But knowing full well there are people who are literally, whether neurodivergent or not, they are lacking the capacity, and fragility is a thing, and sometimes all we have to do is just know that they're not going to understand, but we're seeking out people who do. And
Mhm.
I think here it would be really important to work on being able to call things like that out and be like supportive of each other so that, even if some bully came through and thought they totally won the conversation, we could at least like rally and decide going, that was not very nice, was it? Let's see, how could we support you? So seeking out people who do understand can help that.
Yeah.
I hope that was a reasonable answer. It's such a tough age-old problem.
Mhm. Absolutely. I think also this is a good example of as the community grows, it's just the fact that here in Soft, some people will join who ultimately won't be a good fit because they're not introspective. And that's like one of the big things that defines this community. Everybody is co-regulating, but they have to be regulating first. And to be regulating, you do have to have some level of introspection. So you can continually check in with yourself, even if you're not skilled at it, even if you're working on it. But
Mhm, mhm.
if that's where you stand and you say something a little bit effed up, you it needs to be possible for us to bring it to a person's attention. And if it's not, then this would not be a good fit as like for a community. So that's at least how Soft is going to handle it. But I do think there should be a protocol, much like there's a conflict resolution protocol. So this gives me something to think about because yeah, I'm not going to prioritize whiteness in this space.
Please God, no. I'm so tired
Yeah,
of that. And it harms even white people, to be honest. So, people that are gonna continue to run to that, it's just so outdated and it's really, really very immature and very nobody has time for that anymore at all. And so everyone needs to be available to learn and grow and correct, open to new learning, right? Open to new learning.
100%. Okay, so let me make sure we're good. Oh, I love that you start every day listening to the energy meditation. That's beautiful. Oh, I'm so glad it's useful. Okay, so I have one and a half more questions for you.
Okay.
The first question is, can you tell everyone exactly who you are?
Sure. Okay. Oh my God. Can I? Because do I even know? Okay. Hello. But anyway, so I'm Catherine. I'm a psychologist and a marriage and family therapist. I have two licenses. So the psychologist license is from my Society, which is a clinical psychology doctorate degree. And then the other one is for master's degree level license. That's marriage and family therapist. So that's what I do for work. And then I'm also on a journey. I was led to, I feel like, become a therapist from my own healing path, which I think a lot of therapists have. Some people get stuck along the way and quit healing, which is, to be honest, I feel like that can be like uncool. But for me, I think it became, I was really surprised when I found out other therapists don't feel like they've been doing therapy and they're healing. So, um, okay, so yeah, for me, I came to this that way, like from healing and over time. And I was even told when some of my traumas were revealed that at some point you're going to want to help other people. And this is why I feel like I'm pebbling. I'm collecting little gems and things that have worked for me. And when I find them, I love to share them. And it's also my special interest. So of course I'm like seeking and, trying to find out all the things and trying them out. And I don't ask people to do things that I haven't tried myself. Um, and yeah, and I'm just really excited to be like a part of the Soft because it feels like a little bit of an umbrella where my RSD part can find some safety to be able to express some of what it's like for me and in addition to how I can help other people. There's other environments where the whole idea of a therapist, they're supposed to be very much like a blank slate and that's like hides a multitude of sins. It's not cool. And at least this way I won't be necessarily offending the greater public by sharing a little bit of my healing journey. And I think over time I'm slowly getting a little bit more comfortable showing myself and who I am. And I don't think I would be doing this if it wasn't for Brittney-Elizabeth and Soft App because she invited me. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for accepting the invitation. It's so nice to be here.
So I'm a therapist. I also do coaching. I have all kinds of special interests. Definitely neurodivergent. I was diagnosed with ADHD back in like 2000, and only well, I starting in about 2012, I started wondering because I was paying attention to people who were writing about their experiences of autism, and I was like nowhere near ready to understand myself as autistic at all at that time, but over time, and I think that there's been a big sea change about how we can understand ourselves. And so at this point, I think it's safe to say I'm self-diagnosed with ADHD. I got the combo pack, right? And it helps me because now I know a little bit better how to be more compassionate to myself and to understand that the ways that I show up, there are ways to support myself. And, so I want to share those and learn from y'all.
Yeah,
So,
it's
mhm,
beautiful. Thank you, thank you. So
thank
here's my half
you.
question.
Okay.
So, okay, when new people come into this 24/7 Zoom, because this is a 24/7 Zoom,
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
when people are new here, they often feel a little bit shy to speak. And then when they do, they will info dump and then follow it up with, I'm sorry I said so much, not realizing that literally all of us are here to info dump and say so much. So I just wanted you
We
to,
are.
yeah, oh yeah.
I have my parts of me still have doubts.
We totally do that here. And I just wanted to ask you to like verify that you have a professional opinion on this before asking if you could just reassure people that it's okay. It's okay,
Oh
like
my
if you
goodness.
find a good space where you don't have to apologize. That's all I'm saying. You don't have to apologize.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard habit to break, feeling like maybe we accidentally said too much, and I'm sure we've experienced it lots of times. God, almost every conversation, I still do that. I'll have a process where I felt very expansive and I shared all the things, and then later on I go through this like, oh shit, what did I say? Um, and then there's memory things like, what did I say? Oh my gosh. And then I can create whole stories about what that person, how I must have offended that person. And, I work on it. We're all on a journey working on this. And this place is a place where it's invited. It's invited. And especially with things like breakout rooms, if there's if we're needing a quiet time where I'm doing something that I don't want to hear, I can either turn my own volume down and not listen to somebody speaking and just know that you're there, or I can, listen with my ears wide open and be really grateful, for example, that, oh, that's so relatable what you shared, or, oh, I'm going to have to go watch that show, sort of thing.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, I want to validate that we do need more spaces to validate each other and to allow for us to do the love languages that we have and honor them.
absolutely. Yeah. And I don't know if this is correct to say, but is validation also kind of a form of co-regulation? Because or affirmation is
Oh,
co-regulation?
absolutely. So, yeah, like co-regulation would be when I'm calm and I can validate and mirror what somebody else said, like what I heard you say was blank. Did I get that right? That's co-regulation because the person that hears that can go, yes, right? That feeling, it's like sometimes we call it kerplunk, like, yeah. Feeling understood is a huge part of co-regulation. Co-regulation, it refers to like a nervous system state. And so we should all learn as babies co-regulate self-regulation through co-regulation, and some of us didn't get that because maybe mom wasn't available to just really hold me and see me and understand me, or whatever caregivers. So some of us are still learning that today, and this is part of where things like RSD come from. It's like, ooh, I want to share myself, but I'm scared that it'll be rejected. And so maybe we can give each other experiences to correct some of those wounds for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
it's nice to be co-regulating with all of you
Yes. I'm
here.
so glad everybody could come.
Yeah. And thank you so much. Thank you for talking with us, having a Q&A with us. We are going to do this every month-ish. Yeah.
Month-ish.
So,
Okay, I like that because I mean,
because
life
life
be
be life.
lifing.
Yeah.
But that's nice to have that flexibility. I appreciate so much the way you run things around here, young lady.
Thank you.
It's so good. We appreciate you.
Oh my gosh, now I feel okay.
Oh, you
Well,
guys, I'm seeing the little hearty hearts.
yeah. Oh, thank you for being here. Do you know this is our second Q&A, and the first one person was there. And so this is so,
It was just a chat.
yeah.
We didn't even...
And it was very nice, but it's just nice to see things, expanding and more people are being exposed to it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I even got a really good some advice from you. So sometimes your questions help me and then I'm going to use them to help more people. And so we're just creating this whole beautiful thing and it's great. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, my Alexa, hold on.
Alexa.
Okay, now it's done.
Well, that's funny. I didn't hear it. I think that a Zoom noise suppression took care of it for us.
Oh,
Mm.
well, yeah, growth, absolutely, Peanut. Well, yeah, okay. So that's it. This has been a successful Q&A.
Yay! That's so awesome. Okay, I'll see you guys around.
Okay, Dr. Catherine, can I meet you in breakout room 2 for about 3 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So,
Okay.
everybody, I'll see you back in the main room in
See
just
you. Thank
bye.
you.
Breakout rooms. I'm going to breakout room number 2. Wait, I don't know if we're stopping.